Most people think the way to become wealthy is simple. Make more money, spend less, save the difference. It sounds obvious. It sounds responsible. It sounds like the advice everyone should follow. But there's a problem. Millions of people are doing exactly that. They wake up every morning, they go to work, they avoid unnecessary purchases, they put money into their savings account, and somehow, years later, they are still standing in the same place. The number in their bank account is bigger. But their life hasn't changed because saving money was never the entire game. It was only the first rule, and most people never learn the rules that come after it. For decades, people have been taught that money sitting safely in a bank account is a sign of financial success. But what if that money is quietly losing power every single year? What if the thing you were told was protecting your future was actually keeping you behind? Because the biggest mistake people make with money is not spending too much. It's believing that money is supposed to sit still. When most people hear the word wealth, they imagine someone with a huge bank account, a person with millions of dollars sitting somewhere, untouched. But that image is completely wrong. The wealthy don't become wealthy because they collect money. They become wealthy because they understand what money is supposed to do. Money is not just something you save. Money is a tool. And the difference between someone who stays average and someone who builds wealth often comes down to one question. Does your money work for you, or are you working forever for your money? Imagine two people. Both are 25 years old. Both earn the same salary. Both decide they want to be responsible. The first person saves every dollar they can. They put away $500 every month. They avoid risk. They keep everything in cash because it feels safe. The second person also saves $500 every month. But after building an emergency fund, they start using their money differently. They buy assets, they invest, they learn how businesses work. They buy things that can create more money. At the beginning, they look almost identical, same income, same savings, same lifestyle, but 10 years later, something changes. The first person has money sitting there. The second person has money producing more money, and that difference compounds. Not overnight, not in a few months, but year after year, until eventually the gap becomes impossible to ignore. This is the part nobody explains about wealth. The rich don't just save more, they own more. They own pieces of businesses, they own investments, they own assets that can grow while they sleep. A person who earns $100,000 a year but spends every dollar is not building wealth. A person who earns $50,000 a year but owns assets that continue growing may be moving toward financial freedom. Income is how you survive. Ownership is how you build. But there is a reason most people never make this transition. Because saving feels safe. And humans naturally prefer what feels safe. Your brain is designed to protect what you already have. Thousands of years ago, protecting resources kept people alive. If you found food, you saved it. If you found shelter, you protected it. The instinct was simple: hold on to what you have. But the modern financial world works differently. Today, money that never moves can slowly lose value. The same instinct that once protected humans can now keep them financially stuck. Think about inflation. Most people understand inflation as prices going up. But inflation is actually something deeper. It means your money is buying less than it used to. A dollar today does not have the same power as a dollar from 10 years ago. The number in your account might stay the same, but what that money can buy is changing. It's like owning a block of ice. You don't notice it disappearing immediately, but every day a little more melts away. And by the time you look again, a large part is already gone. This is why wealthy people think differently about cash. They don't hate having money. They understand the importance of having cash available. But they also understand something most people miss. Money sitting still is not growing. A seed sitting in your hand is safe. But a seed in the ground has the ability to multiply. The risk is not planting the seed. The risk is holding it forever and never letting it grow. Now, this doesn't mean every person should take huge risks. It doesn't mean gambling your savings. It doesn't mean chasing every investment trend you see online. That is another mistake people make. They go from doing nothing to trying to get rich overnight, and that is usually where people lose. Building wealth is not about finding one magical opportunity. It's about understanding simple principles and repeating them for years. The problem is that society teaches people how to earn money, but almost nobody teaches people how to control money. You spend years learning math, you spend years learning history, you spend years preparing for a career, but many people graduate without ever learning how money grows, how assets work, how debt works, how businesses create value, or how wealthy people think. And then they enter the biggest financial game of their life without knowing the rules. The biggest lie about saving money is not that saving is bad. Saving is important. Saving creates security. Saving gives you options. But saving alone is not the destination. It's the starting point. The purpose of saving money is not to collect money forever. The purpose is to create enough freedom that money no longer controls every decision you make. Because at the end of the day, there are two ways people can spend their lives. They can spend their entire life chasing money, working more hours, taking more shifts, waiting for the next paycheck. Or they can slowly build a system where their money begins working alongside them. The difference usually doesn't happen from one giant decision. It happens from small choices repeated for years. The extra money you invest instead of spend, the skill you learn instead of ignore, the asset you buy instead of consume, the decision to think differently about money. Most people spend their lives trying to earn more money, but the people who build wealth eventually ask a different question. Not how can I make more money, but how can I make the money I already have create more money? Because that is the question that changes everything. Money is not powerful because you own it. Money is powerful because of what it can become. And once you understand that, you stop seeing money as something to save. You start seeing it as something to build.